Hello everyone, this is Laura Susan Johnson with Period Pieces, and today I'm going to try to review for about the fourth or fifth time Philadelphia, 1993, starring Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. I realize that this is a very, very, very controversial film at this point. It was an Oscar winner back in 1994. And I realize also that after it was released, there was a lawsuit from, I think, the family of the person that this movie was based on, because an interviewer agreed to interview them with a privacy clause, and that this privacy clause was not respected, and of course they made the movie and everything. A lot of people to this day, from the day this was released to today, hate this movie for different reasons. A lot of people say that it did not represent LGBT people accurately or fairly. And a lot of people still hate the homophobic aspects of it. A lot of people say it's cheesy, hokey. What's that other word? Oh, I can't think of it. It's just a word that people use a lot. And there was one cheesy moment I remember. As for me, I found the movie, and still find the movie, to be a very powerful, relevant movie. Yes, compared to 1993, there have been amazing steps made in the treatment of HIV and AIDS. Lots of new treatments, lots of new pharmaceuticals, have come forth and have made it almost not a big deal. At least that's what a lot of people say. It's almost like they're saying AIDS is no longer a big deal anymore. But consider this, Philadelphia was made 8 years after Rock Hudson died, and when Rock Hudson died, that sort of made the first world aware of the problem of AIDS. And, AIDS had been a problem that the minorities, if you will, knew about, the LGBT communities that were not in the mainstream spotlight. Poor communities, ghettoized communities, that kind of thing. And yet, Philadelphia, with its A-list cast and its director, who had directed the Oscar-winning, notorious not horror film, but suspense thriller, Silence of the Lambs, a couple of years before. Naturally, that kind of movie is going to get the attention, and so they brought AIDS into the media spotlight, the mainstream spotlight. And Tom Hanks plays such a dignified and such a courageous man. And he didn't get AIDS from a blood transfusion like they could have portrayed him to get the AIDS from. He made one mistake. They didn't portray him as some kind of slutbag who, constantly went around barebacking or, just having indiscriminate sex with no protection. He just made one mistake, and he contracted AIDS. He had a longtime partner who was not only very caring and very loving and very supportive and always ready to jump down anybody's throat that might hurt him unduly, Antonio Banderas as Miguel played a beautiful part, and not only quick to protect Tom Hanks's character Andy, but quick to forgive Andy for that one indiscretion that might have put both their lives in jeopardy, not just Tom Hanks's. Denzel Washington, talk about a sea change that character went through. The character, that this might have been more backlash that the movie took. Black people throughout history have faced so much adversity, so much prejudice, so much bigotry. And here we had a black character who was bigoted against gays and bigoted and frightened against people with AIDS. And maybe that caused some backlash. But the change that Joe Miller, played by Denzel, went through from a macho man, just call me a man, call me old-fashioned, call me a bigot, call me whatever you want, just call me a man. And his wife being his first teacher, and Andy being a very big teacher to him. Just the examples and the way that he so dignified. He is dignified. He's not going to let people chase him out of the library. He sits with his head held high, even though he's got a runny nose and he's got pale face and sores on his face, but he's still a human being, and damn it, he's not going to let anybody tell him how he's going to be, where he's going to sit. It's just like Rosa Parks almost, It's like you're not going to treat me like I'm some kind of leper, second-class citizen. You're not going to do that to me because I'm a human being. Unless, it's like his doctor said, unless you have sex with them or exchange dirty needles with them, you're not going to get AIDS from them, from hugging them or giving them a pat on the back or shaking their hand. It was just, by the time the movie was over, Denzel was putting his oxygen mask back on his face and looking deeply into his eyes and seeing that humanity and that soul in this dying creature before him, and knowing that friendship that he had with him, with working with him. This was a relationship, and it's really a shock to me that people are still treating LGBTQIA communities with such rancor and such vitriol and hatred after all of that, after movies like this have been out. There's, obviously there must be a bunch of, fundamentalist idiots that refuse to watch these movies because they don't want to learn. They don't want to be taught. They're too proud to be taught. It's really sad, but I have a couple of LGBT friends who do not like this movie. Joanne Woodward gives a beautiful performance. There are so many other people. Mary Steenburgen, she's a gal who, at first she comes across as real catty and kind of, uppity up and, superior. But she kind of seems more human towards the end of it. And one thing I have to say that I really appreciated about the director is that he fought very hard for Ron Lauder, he played one of the partners in the firm that Tom Hanks's character is fired from. He was the one lawyer who had a little bit of compassion and kind of knew that Andy Beckett was sick. This actor actually had AIDS, and he had passed away by the time the movie was released. And the studio was against him being cast, which is an absolute hypocrisy. and the director called them on that, and he said, you're going against the meaning of this movie when you refuse to cast an HIV-infected actor in a role in a movie about AIDS. It's an important story about human rights, basic human rights. Who else was in this movie? Oh, Robert Ridgely as Walter Kenton. Now that actor, it takes a damn good actor to make you hate the character so much you just want to punch his lights out. And he was an asshole. That Walter Kenton was an asshole. And Jason Robards, I love the actor to death. I really do. He's one of my favorite old school actors, and he played Charles Wheeler. And he was the one that said, Andrew Beckett brought AIDS into our establishment, and he brought AIDS into our men's room, and he was, he was a terrible guy, and he's the one that said, get an ambulance as soon as Andy collapsed in the courtroom and could no longer go on because he had that eye virus that gets in the eye, cytomegalovirus, I think it's called. We cannot forget how bad AIDS was back in the day and how hopeless some of the patients felt before they did come up with these advanced treatments and these wonderful antiviral, antiretroviral treatments, vaccines, whatnot, pills, whatever. So, yeah, I respect those of you who do not like the film for whatever reasons you don't like it, whether it be racial reasons or, any other kinds of discriminatory reasons or, reasons having to do with that lawsuit that happened with the family. I do like the movie, though. I think it's a very powerful movie. The one cheesy, schmaltzy, there's the word I was looking for, schmaltzy. The one schmaltzy part I thought was really ridiculous was when, I forget the actress's name. She got up on the stand, and she's the one that had the AIDS because of a blood transfusion. She had the sores. She was from a job that Walter Kenton worked at previously, and he recognized sores on her face, and that's how he knew that Andy Beckett, Tom Hanks, had the AIDS from the sores on his face, the KS lesions on his face. She says, I'm not bad. I'm not an angel compared to Mr. Beckett. Just because I got it this way, we're both just trying to survive, and these meaningful looks are exchanged, and that kind of a moment was what I thought was schmaltzy and cheesy and ooey gooey and that kind of thing. But other than that, that was the only moment in the movie that I thought was like eye-rollingly dorky, Philadelphia, 10 out of 10.